today on Viewpoint. It's Wednesday. It's smack in the middle of the week. And that means we're heading fast towards the end of your usual work week, Monday through Friday. For those of you who work 40 hours a week, yeah, Friday ends it all. And then you look forward to the weekend. For those following the live stream, special good afternoon to you. Thank you so very much for joining us. It's good to have you and for you to be involved in the conversation of which we're having each time we meet at 12 o'clock when it's your favorite time to eat lunch. As a matter of fact, those persons following the live stream on the better part of the occasion, they are far away from us and sometimes 4 and 5 hours away. So you may be well into the afternoon session, but in any case, good to have you. All right. My good friend, Mr. Julio Romney, is spending the hour with us today, and we will learn from him whatever it is that he has to share, and he has some comments to make as well regarding some of the political development that are happening here on the island. And it's always good to hear from him because he shares so much important information, having studied and spent the better part of his life working into this type of environment and knows it very well. But sad to say, he is often not well listened to at times in terms of the advice that he has to give. So with that said, let me say a special good afternoon to Mr. Romney. Good afternoon to you, sir. How you doing?
Good afternoon, Brother Mo. I'm doing great. How about yourself?
It's good. Well, I'm on the occasion doing pretty fine as well.
Good. Okay.
Yeah, it's getting hot early.
I see that, yeah. It's
because
hot.
It's just about springtime, right?
Yeah, spring officially was about a week ago.
And for us, in March, doesn't really get that hot that quick. Wow, I don't know. We are having some real strange developments as far as... for those of you who might want to doubt what I'm saying, take note of what's happening around the world. Everything is extreme.
Yeah.
Which means, well, I don't think I have all the answers, but I believe it means that we are at a strange part of our existence on planet Earth. And we need to pay some attention to what is really happening. We are here for a reason, and a very good reason, and we need to be up to speed with why we are here. All right. With that said, Mr. Romney, good to have you.
You know, it's always a pleasure to come back and speaking with you and your listened audience.
Yeah.
So good morning to them too also.
You better say good afternoon because we made past 12.
Good afternoon. Sorry about it.
All righty then. So, you know what? I think it's important for people to understand the work that you're doing. And you've given much of your time to set up the institution called SIPS, often probably slight by many people. But the significance of what you're doing need to be explained. And if you don't mind, just give us, in the simplest form, exactly what SIPS is all about and what you intend to do with this foundation.
Well, SIPS stands for, it's an acronym, stands for St.Maarten Institute for Public Policy Studies. Basically, the organization was created to inform or to cultivate a more informed society. Mm-hmm. Simple. Inform, created to cultivate a more informed society. Because I saw the need that as a society, we must educate ourselves. We must be informed. The best society is the best informed society. For that reason, SIPS was created. Mm-hmm. And today, I must announce that we are embarking on a new education development program. And the education development program, and which basically we're organizing a public dialogue. Okay? We're looking at a dialogue on St.Maarten's Dutch colonial slavery past, its effect, legacy, and the continued impact on the present. Mm. And this is also, I must add here, sponsored by the Slavery Memorial Committee. Okay. Well, the aim of the project is to foster commemoration, increase knowledge and awareness of this enslavement, and address and plot a way for a more equitable future. So we're looking at what next. We're looking at what taking a close look at the enslavement sites, how it impacted us, and what the impact is on us today. Then again, we go further, we're looking at the atonement that is being offered to us. And then we'll contribute to that atonement. Because when we speak about atonement, we're looking at the correcting the wrong. We understand slavery was a crime against humanity. So when it comes to atonement, we, St.Maarten, needs to be part of that atonement process, if you want to put it that way. And the ultimate here now is to get self-reliance, to move away from what we experience and come into a more equitable existence within the world. Not necessarily within the kingdom, but within the world as such. And one of the things that we're doing presently as part of this project, we are approaching the high schools, and we want the secondary schools, and we're asking the schools to give us at least two students, and these two students, we're having a field trip this coming Saturday. And the idea of this trip now is to get the schools involved, the students involved. Okay? So they too can learn about our cultural heritage and then pass it on and on. Because that's the way we can educate ourselves and find ourselves in a better position.
You use the word educate and inform in a general term, but I wonder, except for this project that you're working on where you lay out some specifics, would you also, the education and the information that you're giving, would you also attribute that as well to maybe civic education as far as being knowledgeable of our system, which I'm sure lacks in some ways when it comes to what we know, hence need to be informed of, or what we were taught and need to be taught more of?
Without question. You know that in the past or earlier we have held a number of different lectures, debates, etc. And even to this extent, or to this thing, I have published a book on our constitutional framework.
Yes.
Because it's important, again, within civics education to understand your government. And we will be getting back to some of that education thing, but we just take a different twist, so to speak, in terms of trying to educate folks because it's important that we know where we came from.
Yeah.
Okay? And a long-term project that we're looking at is probably helping person to trace their lineage back to the homeland.
Okay, you're going way back here.
Yeah.
Because you're going back to where the original slaves came from. But, here and now, the information that is available to citizens are somewhat limited when it comes to tracing our history coming all the way forward. Like we were once in an insular position in the framework of not really a sovereign. The Netherlands Antilles wasn't sovereign, was it? No. It was in a separate state within the kingdom.
Within the kingdom.
Yeah. But when all the 5 islands were together as one, and even as far back there, we need to understand what we came out of to the point of what we're in now, so that we can really, function in here in a knowledgeable way, so that we can be an informed citizen functioning in the status that we're in at this moment.
And that is something that we have dealt with, have addressed, and we continue, because we can understand that we were part of the Netherlands Antilles, and then the Netherlands Antilles in turn was a part of the kingdom, and then 2010, the Netherlands Antilles was dissolved, and then we became a constituent state within the kingdom.
Yeah.
So,
And that is very different, and that became, I should say, very different to what we were when we were all together as one.
yeah, because
And-
we now have, as a constituent state,
Yes.
we have more power. We are autonomous in carrying out our responsibilities for St. Maarten. Okay? And that's something that person must understand clearly. Okay? We are not a sovereign nation, but we are part of a sovereign nation with a considerable amount of autonomy within that free association. Because that it basically, when we look in the kingdom, is an agreement that we have with the Netherlands that form the kingdom. And the kingdom of itself are responsible for a number of duties. Clear in point, they're responsible for defense, nationality, foreign affairs, that child. So we come together in order to carry out those duties and responsibilities. However, St. Maarten, as a constituent state, is responsible for our own economy, our own education. So we have quite a bit of leeway within the structure.
Can this be used as a stepping stone for an eventual, because there have been talks, you are well aware that there have been talks about complete independence, wanting to get away from the kingdom. And I'm wondering if where we are at this present moment, if we adapt ourselves to learning and understanding it and function accordingly, we take on more responsibility of preparing ourselves for the eventual moving away, if that has to happen.
If that has to happen, yeah. And that's clearly established within this free association. That's what we do. We have a right to self-determination.
Yes. It's laid out in the Constitution.
And basically, right to self-determination means, okay, I can determine, or St. Maarten can determine its own political future.
Correct.
Not the Netherlands. It's clearly stated there. We have a right to self-determination.
Yeah.
And also within that charter, it's also the framework there that if there's issues or a legislation or what have you, that the kingdom puts together, and St. Maarten feels that would affect us negatively, we can opt out.
Yeah. Okay.
We can say, no, thanks, but no thanks. Unless it's something that's essential for the survival of the complete kingdom. You see? And
then they can object
then,
to us leaving.
Yeah.
But that responsibility still lays down with us. We can decide.
And like when we always talk about probably going independent, so to speak, because you alluded to that, I mean, that we can become that sovereign entity as opposed to being part of a sovereign entity.
Yeah.
Okay. Here again, it's important, very, very important, that we look at the world order. One can quickly say, become independent. Yes, great. We all aspire to be. However, there are external factors. There's a world order that one must consider if making that step. Because the objective here is what? Is to have the best for your citizens. That's going to put you in a
That's the bottom line.
position. That's the bottom line.
Yes.
We cannot go and thinking, subjectively that, okay, we want to be independent, so to speak. But
because we're in an unfair situation.
Unfair.
Yeah.
And you got to be, are you ready to assume all of these responsibilities of being independent?
Yeah.
Okay?
Worrying about your own defense. Worrying about your own nationality. Worrying about...
Okay, we take care of our own economy at this point, but even at that too, worrying about your own education, worrying about all those things. Do we have what it takes to do that? Okay, and the key here is that, and I've always been saying this, and that this is the time that we should be what? Preparing for such an event.
Yeah,
but we're not.
So the present status that we have is good grounds to prepare
for preparation.
Yeah.
Persons all say, okay, what we're going to do? Become that sovereign nation without necessary preparation. We're going to prepare what once we become? No. So our focus here should be on preparing for that, sending off our students and to study these areas, and then we can then we can think about that. Because right now we find that today we're having a whole lot of areas which we're lacking capacity, and we're doing nothing about it. Even in our school system, we send off students to study every year. How many of them actually come back to St.Maarten? How many of them actually study in the areas?
Can you speak a little
that,
come a
sorry,
little closer to the
study
phone? Yeah.
in the areas that we are need of. See, and this is what, so to me the focus should be there, that preparing for.
Well, some would argue that we are ready, and not only ready. Some are advocating that whatever needs to be done could be done after we have decided. I mean, as a matter of fact, I really didn't have any intentions of going into this, but as a result of the conversation and
Just
the
like
work
that
that you're doing as SIPs, you think that these are the type of information that we should take advantage of to prepare us as we move forward, because there's always that thought, if you don't know where you come from, you don't know where you're going. And at present, we are in a sovereign country called the Kingdom of the Netherlands, and we have quite some autonomy. We have quite a lot of space to take a lot of responsibility and manage it from 10, what we're calling the separate state that we have gotten, the new status from 10. And I wonder how well we are using the responsibility that is there for us to carry out, to prepare ourselves for the future, because we're still lacking in many ways. We don't see not the responsibility, I want to say, the representation on behalf of citizens the way it really should. And that would scare people from, well, it would also generate a certain amount of trust as well. And that would, one, scare people or make people believe that maybe you shouldn't even entertain, and then you stay in a system that you would be better off getting out of.
Better off getting out of.
When I use that, I'm saying that that would be part of the way forward for us. We would definitely want to be in control of our own situation, which ultimately might be understood by many as independent.
And that is exactly what part of SIP's objective, trying to educate us so we can get out of a system that, if we feel, is not adequate. Okay? But one can look at it closely and see that there is some benefits from being part of the kingdom.
Are you saying it's better off being there, being part of the kingdom?
Well, I wouldn't use the word you're better off. But if you look at the world, at the world order, you are better off. Okay? Because today,
better off at present.
At present, yes.
Okay.
The world order is not about separating or independent. No, it's about coming together. We, as part of the kingdom, is part of what? The two greatest economic blocs. Okay? NAFTA and European Union, the two biggest ones. You're completely you're part of that. So there's a whole lot of things that's available to you. You're part of the OCT. overseas country territory. That, hey, again, programs are available to you. But if it's you now to take advantage, no one's going to give them to you. There are a number of programs and whatever that you can apply for and you can get. And we're in that position. As not being part of this association, it's much more difficult. We can get goods and services coming from the two major blocks, European Union and the North American Free Trade. And for what? We wouldn't have to be, subjected to tariffs, to taxes. So what will make the goods and services less? We can move them freely. This is something that the other islands in the Caribbean do not have access to. We do. So it's all about putting yourself in that position. More again, it's all about educating yourself on this. Okay, we have a number of issues today that we talk about it, but we actually don't put persons, educate persons in those areas to come back to St. Maarten to carry out that. Okay? Another thing that we see much talk about, and the central bank of St. Maarten, on the central bank of the Curaçao
and St. Maarten.
Our share, okay, and it sort of how can I best put it? I just don't understand, because much of our talk now, when we're looking at the central bank, we talk about Curaçao wanting to earn, having 80%, St. Maarten 20%. And so we need to understand what central bank is all about.
Can that shared proportion be a reality?
What, 80-20?
80-20?
No, it's I mean,
It
to me,
shouldn't be, though.
And that shouldn't be the focus.
Yeah.
It should be 50-50. But like I said, that's to me, to my mind, that really even not supposed to be entertained. One should looking at the focus of the central bank. The focus of the central bank is what? Monetary policy.
And that's it.
And that's it. Well, not that's it, but that's part of it, monetary policy, ensuring the currency, looking at the currency, looking at to address inflation rates, to keep down inflation, the supervising the central banks, the local banks, etc. So I think that we should be focused on. And key here that St. Maarten in itself, we should able to send persons back to the Netherlands or wherever to understand, okay, to know exactly, to run a central bank, so to speak. Because we have persons in there, but the core of the central bank management is not from St. Maarten. Okay? As a matter of fact, most of them come from where? The Netherlands. Okay? So I think what St. Maarten will do itself a favor is focus on getting persons qualified to take on these responsibilities.
Yeah.
See, that should be the focus. You will never hear them really talking about what the central bank should do, what their responsibilities are. Forget the 80-20. Focus on educating yourself to put representative in there. Okay? You can't say, okay, I'm going to get away from the central bank or leave the central bank and then try to find someone with the ability, the capability, or what have you, the knowledge to run that thing.
And we would get such a person.
Where are we going to get such a person? And guess what? You then still have to revert back to where? The kingdom. Okay? So,
because we're in the kingdom.
We're in the kingdom. Okay? And one can say, we have to revert back there because that's our system. Okay? You can take a person, let's say if you go to, I don't know, Trinidad or Guyana or wherever and bring that person. The British system and the Dutch system is different. Okay? So they'll have to go and learn all that. But the key here is not to bring someone, but to what? Educate your own.
How far away are we from that?
Too far. too far. And there are a number of other areas that we need to develop. See, and one can talk clearly too when they talk about democratic deficit and all those areas. Okay? Our focus is to what? Understanding what this means, understanding this free association that we're in, and making sure that we find persons or we send persons abroad to educate themselves in these areas.
But aren't the politicians the ones mentioning all that has been said about democratic deficit, which I believe, if I'm correct, in terms of their interpretation of what that means, there's an imbalance when it comes to the Netherlands versus St.Maarten, and maybe decisions that may affect one and not the other. The imbalance is there. They're really talking about and they are the ones also who have, the Netherlands have an opportunity to overrule what we are doing, which in some cases they think shouldn't happen. Those are some of the indifferences.
Okay. Clearly, and if one go and really understand what democratic deficit means, and there's quite a talk, democratic deficits within the kingdom. There is no democratic deficit within the kingdom. Okay?
There is none.
There is no democratic deficit within the kingdom of the Netherlands.
I hear some politician telling you you're talking foolishness. That's not true.
And I would like the opportunity. Like I'm open for a person to convince me otherwise, based on the body of literature, not based on your subjective feelings. Okay? We have to put this into context. When we're talking about the Netherlands, the kingdom, we're talking about all four parts. We talk about governing, so all have to what? Proportional representation. The Netherlands within this association have what? 17 plus million. And put all the other three Caribbean parts together. If we got 200,000, we got a lot. How can one expect democratically for a 200,000 to govern or to influence public policy or to dictate public policy over what? Over 17 plus million. When they look at it, they think about us, just St.Maarten or the Caribbean parts, that they're telling us what to do. No, it's proportional representation. We're talking about issues that has to do with what? Kingdom's responsibility. Not St.Maarten, not Curaçao, not your own. You're talking responsibility for the kingdom. And if you go back and understand and look at the definition of democratic deficit, that's what it is. That you have, in that body, you have a, you're not properly represented. Okay? And that is not so.
But isn't Aruba as well as Curaçao feels the same way when they have their meetings of political parties? They all are on the same consensus when it comes to the unevenness of Holland versus
what and understand. I understand that, okay, but the issue at hand here is not democratic deficit, is democratic legitimacy. You see, one have to put this in context. Democratic legitimacy speaks to the problem that we're having there. The problem we're having here, okay, is that the smaller islands, smaller parts of the kingdom, cannot be legitimately identified within that government structure.
But why not when It says that we're equal partners in the kingdom. It is mentioned that we're equal partners in the kingdom.
Okay. And I guess one will disagree with me on this again also. And I will ask you, do you think that we're not equal partners within the kingdom?
I can't speak for them, but when I listen to them, it is clear that it's supposed to be equal partners. But yeah, I don't know.
Again, one have to put this into context. One have to put it into context. There's all indication, okay, that there is equality, or there isn't none equality. And I say that too because we said what? We have agreed to collectively carry out these responsibilities, e.e. foreign policy, defense, nationality, what have you. And equality comes in here is that when as a citizen of the Caribbean parts of kingdom, that, clear example, that's the passport that I carry, which says St.Maarten, part of okay. So it has the equal value of person from the Netherlands.
So in that regard,
And that's
you're
equal,
saying
yeah.
that's
So,
equal.
Yeah, I would not get different treatment compared to the person in the Netherlands who has that passport.
But-
So if my passport said St.Maarten, more said Aruba, the other guy says the Netherlands, part of the kingdom, that internationally will be treated the same. There would be no difference. Okay? If, for whatever reason, we have a conflict within the Caribbean parts of the kingdom, defense-wise, that what St.Maarten, the other parts of the kingdom, so all parts of the kingdom would be defended equally. That's the equality we're talking about. So we have to put this into context. So it's not about, that equality in the sense that they treat us differently. No, we want equality within those areas. And if you go further, when we talk about equality, if St.Maarten, as part of the kingdom, doesn't agree with a piece of legislation that the kingdom puts together, like I said earlier, we can reject that. And much of these areas, other areas, when you come to our education, our social system, what have you, we are in charge of that 100%.
But in the, let's say, in the second chamber where these deliberations on legislation is been happening, do we have any representation there?
So that's the core of democratic legitimacy. Okay? We cannot be identified within that body. Okay? And
Is that right, though?
Well, no, it's not. I would say no, it's not right. So that is where we should be focused on. And we have seen that the professor, I guess the chair of the forget the terminology they use, they propose now for St.Maarten or the other cabinet to have a voting member in the second chamber. Empty concept. In order to address that, what is reality, not a democratic deficit, but a democratic legitimacy. So we can be identified within that governing structure. Okay.
Because if we don't have any, if we don't have any representation in that body, how do we oppose or reject a piece of legislation which is unfair? Let me use a case in point. I remember one time there was a member of parliament in the Netherlands who were proposing a piece of legislation to send people from the Caribbean part of the kingdom back to the Caribbean part, deport them then, send them back to the Caribbean. That piece of legislation never did go through, but we didn't have any say in that. That could have been easily passed and give them the right to send someone from Curacao back to Curacao, or for St. Maarten who might have been involved. I think the condition of them being able to send them back had to do with conduct. Maybe they have been involved in criminal activity, and they can send them back. But if you're equal, as a Dutch citizen, you shouldn't be able to send them back to Curacao or to St. Maarten, as the case may be.
Again, it's not a question of being equal. One cannot really put equality in that thing.
But we're all Dutch citizens.
Yeah, we're all Dutch. So therefore, within that body, you need proportional representation. Okay? Their way, like so this professor, their concept or their proposal would be what, to give the Dutch parts a voting member within the second chamber.
Okay.
Not within the second. Yeah, within the second chamber. Of course, that's neither here nor there.
Yeah, because you only one.
You won compared to go up against 150.
Yeah.
Okay? My proposal, okay, is not even within the second chamber, because the second chamber, what they do, they just pass legislation. Okay? The decisions is made where? The Kingdom Council of Ministers. So you have to change.
But we don't have any. We don't have any members sitting on the Kingdom Council of Ministers either.
I have already, I have it documented. I've written out a proposal that would change it. That it'll be based on using a mathematical equation that the decisions made within the Kingdom Council of Ministers, okay, would be as such that we'll have proportional representation within that body. And more importantly, for a piece of legislation to be passed within that body, we need I think it's a 3/5 majority. Okay? And the calculations are such that no one part of the kingdom would be able to pass a piece of legislation on their own. So the kingdom, the Netherlands, or I shouldn't say the kingdom, the Netherlands doesn't have enough members to pass that piece of legislation, 50 plus 1. Neither does the other islands in the Caribbean could come together and pass a piece of legislation. So it must be the kingdom or the Netherlands, along with at least two parts of the Caribbean parts, in order to pass that piece of legislation. And these legislation, again, one must keep in mind now, these are within the purview of the kingdom, not the individual constituent parts.
Okay. I got to take a break because we have not done so yet. This is Viewpoint. I'm here with Dr. Julio Romney. We'll take a quick break and get our commercials in, and when we come back, we'll wrap up our thoughts. We'll be back. To our discussion here with Mr. Dr. Julio Romney, who is representing SIPS. SIPS is, again, can you just break down the acronym for us, please?
St.Maarten Institute for
Public Policy. And the public policy part, do you give any type of information as to how that should work? And are the engagements that you're involved in lend to people learning and understanding how public policy should work?
And that's what we wholeheartedly engage in. And like I said, what we just spoke about briefly. And you see, this subject matter of governing, okay, on your road to self-determination or what have you, is a complex thing. And we give a little brief synopsis of here, and it takes some real thought. So that's our focus. And we have written many position papers, and hopefully within the near future, we'll come back again to the public and hold lectures on that. Sit down and really try to understand, because this is not something that one would easily understand, so to speak. And one must have a clear, open mind and understand this. It's not a easy thing. It's a difficult. I must admit. I know, because I spend...
Mr. Romney, you speak very softly. If you can come a little closer to that microphone,
sorry about it.
I think it would
do
a
like
lot
I said,
of...
Yeah, like I said, it's a complicated subject matter, without question. I've spent many years dealing, studying the subject matter, and so to me, I see it easy and clearly. But I understand the general public probably won't, because we're not really educated in our school system as to civics. And if you don't have that foundation, then you clearly won't understand the concept.
Yeah.
It's not easy, without question. It's not easy. So SIPs have made it its responsibility, its duty to really to try to educate the folks on that area.
But a lot of people, some who are very vocal, would actually disagree with you that they understand the system. But clearly, when you look at it and see the dysfunction or the malfunctioning of the system, of which many would say that if we get out of it, it would be better, is because you don't really understand yet
You don't understand.
the system that is before us. Is
And
it
I would
fair to
say-
say it that way?
I would say no. It's not fair to say that. I've seen and heard of persons say that, and I would say to them is, let us sit down to the table and sit with an open mind. Look at a body of literature. Okay? Look at the United Nations resolution. Look at the Constitution. Look at the Charter of the Kingdom, along with their explanatory notes, and understand the concept. We have to get away about how we feel it is, how we think it should be. No, it's not what we think it should be. We have to look at what it is. There are much persons who tell you, "Oh, St.Maarten is they don't care, but we're not we are a colony." And I would say, folks, yes, we're not treated correctly, or we still, not really. Basically, what we under the yoke of imperialism. Okay? So you must understand these things, because clearly, the United Nations resolution, 945, shows that what we are independent. We are not a colony. You see? So they must.
But you were going to say independent.
No, we're not a colony. Okay. In order to not to be a colony, there are three approaches. You can go straight out independent, integration, or as we are, free association.
Oh, okay. So what we are then
We are
is
free,
a free
association. We have freely
in
agreed.
the kingdom.
Yeah, we have freely agreed to be part of the kingdom, along with the Netherlands and the other islands, to form that sovereign entity which is called the kingdom.
How do you compare that position then with, let's say, Sabre Station and Bonaire?
Okay, Sabre Station and Bonaire, they are separate entities, public entities of the Netherlands. So if for lack of it, one can say now, they are integrated within the constituent state of the Netherlands.
They're integrated
in the Netherlands. Okay? So they themselves is part of the Netherlands, which is a part of the kingdom.
So you can, in layman's terms, say that you can take up, Sabre Station and Bonaire then is Holland, but situated in the Caribbean, for geographic sake.
For lack of a better term, Okay.
But St.Maarten and Curaçao and Aruba are free association, or in a free association with
that forms the kingdom.
In the kingdom that forms
the kingdom of the Netherlands.
One sovereign nation
of
the kingdom of the Netherlands. And in our state, in our present state, we have a certain amount of autonomy.
Quite a bit of autonomy.
Not a certain amount, but a lot.
A lot.
With the exception of 3 that you named.
Yeah, those areas that we have agreed to collectively, together, govern.
Allow it to be that way.
Yeah.
Which is the nationality.
Nationality, defense.
You carry the same passport. Defense in the event that something happened. And if Holland is at war, so is St. Maarten.
Yeah.
and so is Curacao and Aruba.
And they would
And
defend
their
us.
defense, which is basically established with branches, of course, in the Caribbean.
And we've seen that
established in
happening as we speak. It's in the news a couple days ago that the kingdom is now briefing St.Maarten or the other islands on the developments, let's say, between when they were close by us, Venezuela, for instance, with the issues with the United States. They were here visiting. I mean, they were here briefing us on the development to ensure that, to protect us, so to speak.
Yeah, if anything goes
If
wrong,
there's anything
they would
wrong,
stand up for defense.
They would stand up.
Okay, look at a place like Trinidad now, which is an independent country. You're saying that in their case, they would have to activate their own defense in the event that there's an infringement of sorts in terms. And if we are to go independent, you're saying that we would have to have our own defense. We can't be independent and at the same time look to the Netherlands for defense.
Or any other
nationality.
Or any other country or island within the Caribbean. We have to do it ourselves.
It is clear that it's important for us to understand. And so how do you teach something like that as SIPs? How do you get people to understand that?
Well, through lectures, through debates, because that's the only we can get, and try to bring them in and explain them. Sit down and have a dialogue, so to speak.
Yeah. But do you usually get the response of embracement when you make these proposals to sit and discuss these?
From the general public? Yes,
and the political paternity too, because that's where a lot of the misconceptions are when it comes to our rightful position.
We get response, but not to the level that I think that is warranted, so to speak. Not to the level that is warranted. And that is because what? That is something that's not really taught in school. We're not open to it. You see? And that's you have to understand the concept. You have to be willing to really come in with an open mind and look at the body of literature. Look at it for what it is.
But do you see the willingness
unfortunately
in the political paternity? Because these are the ones. I think you would be one of those persons that would be closely consulted in the event that they're putting certain public policies in place and moving forward in terms of where we're going. But that's hence the reason for asking the question, if you get people to show interest.
Well, clearly point, when we were talking about becoming a part of a constituent state.
You mean after the referendum?
Yeah, after the referendum.
You were consulted?
I was consulted to be part of that thing. And
what happened?
At the end of the day, I got a call telling me, Romney, the executive council decided this is what they agreed on. And we had all the details were put into place, but it never actually happened. And when I approached some years after, I approached and I said, what happened? And clearly, the political will was not there. So
maybe they felt that they can control it. They don't need any.
So sometimes we're not open to understanding the concept. We're not open for change. We want to see change the way we think it should be, okay, with no real defense of it or no real thing.
Time is really relevant, because I wanted to ask you if you think that if you were involved, you think things would have been any different than what it is now in terms of the relationship or the interpretation of our present status?
I think we would have been better advised. I think we would have been better advised.
Some pieces of the puzzle you think would
have been advised. Okay. And quickly,
I'm sorry that I have to leave it there like that. Because it's a little ambiguous, because we didn't get to wrap it up really sure. Yeah. But thanks for what you're doing as far as SIPS is concerned.
Yes,
I only hope
we are now open. We want secondary schools to be part of this enslavement field trip, and they can easily contact us at 721-520-5752 or 721-526-1061.
526-1061.
Yeah, 520-5752 and 526-1061. This is for secondary schools, and we're doing a trip, a field
Give me
trip.
that first number, that too.
520
520
57
5752.
52.
Okay. Yeah, the reason why I'm making sure I have this, because on occasion people would ask me if I have the numbers.
Okay.
And usually,
what is going to be, you're going on to the various sites, and with the students, and with explaining, and they could ask questions, and at the end of the thing, they are encouraged to write a paper on that whole thing, and what they feel their contribution to this atonement, and they will receive a prize at a later date for the best three essays.
Okay. All right, I gotta leave it there.
You gotta leave it
I'm
there.
way past time, so I gotta go over to the newsroom. I'm sure they're whipping me on my back. Good afternoon, folks. Thanks for listening. We'll be back again tomorrow. And today being Wednesday, I'm on again at 5. So see you then. Take care.